Hello and a very warm welcome. My name is Odo Sendai Dukai, and in this video I'm going to show you 4 EQ mixing tips that you should always and everywhere take to account. If you're interested in the topic, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Then let's get started. There are many advanced and totally sophisticated tips and tricks regarding mixing, but the most important are actually the most basic techniques that should be followed when editing each track. Please watch all the tips to the end, because the last tip is the most important tip of all. If you don't follow it, you may do more harm than good with the other tips. And do yourself a favor and don't use these techniques in solo. Instead, always use them in the overall context of the mix with all tracks. Because everything has an influence on everything. Tip number 1. An old friend, the low cut. As low frequency oscillate very slowly, require a lot of energy and therefore a lot of space in the mix. The range from 20 to around 200 Hz should be cleaned up really well. This is where the sub-bass, kick drum and normal basses are usually found in the mix. Known techniques for this are either the classic low cut with an EQ, and here, for example, the right slope can play a major role, which also has an influence on the timbre. Sidechain ducking with a compressor. Frequency ducking with a dynamic EQ. Envelope volume ducking with a modulator, MSEC or another plugin such as Kickstart 2. Or in the classic way with an audio processing via the gain with a fade in or ducking. It is important that the roles are clearly assigned here, which is the most important instrument and which other instruments have to make room. This will give you a clean and tight low end. Keep thinking about this with every new project and every new track that wants to play somewhere down there. Tip number 2. Clean up the muddiness in the low mids. Much talked about and yet often forgotten is the range between 200 and 500 Hz. If overemphasized, it is also referred to as boxy, or in German, Blechdose. The range between 200 and 500 Hz is occupied by an extremely large number of instruments, vocals and sounds, which often need it individually, but not in the overall mix, because this frequency range of these sounds is not audible. But that doesn't mean that the range below, namely the lows, can't be important. Here you can lower the range with a wide bell filter. If you're not sure whether this is the right range, then simply raise it a little, move the range back and forth until it's really bad boxy, and then lower the bell curve again at this point until the sound slowly becomes thin, and then rise it again a little so that the sound sounds great again. This simple technique goes a long way towards making the overall sound much clearer and also often means that the bass range, meaning the lows, often sounds much nicer. By the way, now would be a good time to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And I would be absolutely happy if you commented on the video, either on the content or simply with a kind greeting from the region where you're watching the video. This helps me and the channel to attract a little more attention from the algorithm. Tip number 3. The high mids, meaning the range somewhere between 1 and 5 kHz. Some sounds can sound harsh here if overemphasized, but sure to pay attention to this with pads or solo instruments and attenuate if necessary. On the other hand, vocals are a classic. Here, for example, sibilants can be softened, either with a de-esser, a dynamic EQ, a secret compressor trick, or additional plugins such as Soothe 2. You may even have to go a little higher than 5 kHz, but that always depends on the actual material. But it may also be that you want to make the vocals a little more understandable, in which case you can boost them a little bit in this range with a wide bell curve. Of course, you can also do this with lead instruments or guitars, for example, which need a little more emphasis in this area. Tip number 4. The conscious decision. This is the tip and also the big problem with it. These 3 previous techniques are basically very simple. So simple that they often get lost among all the advanced special tricks, tweaks and ultra plugins that are sold. Meaning, with every new track you should consciously decide which of the techniques you want to use and whether you use them at all, because they are techniques and not laws or rules. This conscious decision is extremely important, because it can be style or intention or both, that you, for example, do not clean up the low end at all, but let everything fight down there that sneaks in, or the pressure in the low mids builds up to bursting points. But it should always be your conscious decision. Maybe a tip: if you use a template and you can store notes there like in Bitwig, then maybe write down the most important points in a short form so that you read them again with every new project until it becomes second nature to you. Still interested in bonus tips? A/B comparison. Always test your changes with an A/B comparison in the mix, meaning in combination with all other tracks. If you use an additional filter or EQ, then switch it off and on and listen to the result. If you don't hear any difference, then get rid of the change. Automation. If you use EQs or other devices or plugins, remember that you cannot only use them statically, but also automate them. What is right on one place in the track and fits beautifully can be completely disruptive at another part. Now I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are on this topic and whether you have any other tips that should definitely be considered. Please let me know in the comments. I'm very interested in your opinion. Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope to see you soon again in the next video. Stay healthy, save the future, take care, see you then. Ciao, ciao.